G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Cahill Camden from Digital Vision. He's based on the road as a digital nomad, but sometimes out of Toronto, sometimes in Canada, and sometimes out of New York in the United States. And I think you're in New Mexico at the moment, Cahill.
Yeah, I'm in Mexico, actually. Just
Mexico.
Down on the Pacific coast.
Beautiful. Let's start with how we know each other. Vanessa on your team reached out and thought you'd be a good guest to have on the cast.
Yes, she did. She's one of the full-time members on our team. And she does a fantastic job at running and managing our PR outreach. So she does that for our clients and also for myself as well.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure. Digital Vision is a fractional CMO company. What I do is I go into companies who are looking for fast growth, and I help them coordinate, optimize, and streamline their growth efforts. So some of that includes obviously strategy. We also do tactical work. Our team will do either one of three things: content marketing, PR, or paid media. We don't do community, we don't do social, we don't do those things. I use other people for those, but we focus on that. So fractional CMO work, content marketing, PR, and paid media.
Right. And fractional for the audience effectively means part-time, which I think is a great model for fast-growing businesses until you get big enough to need a full-time chief marketing officer, CMO. I think it's a great service that you provide and very much needed, because in my experience, a lot of small business owners can't spell marketing, let alone how to create a good strategy, simple and effective, and then get on with it.
Yeah, Troy, one of the big things is most fast-growing startups are throwing spaghetti on the wall. They're trying to do too many things. They think, we need to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We need to be doing Google ads, Facebook ads, events, on and on and on and on. And the reality of it is hiring a full-time CMO who's experienced is quite costly. It's valuable, but it's quite costly. And so doing it in a fractional base gives you really core competency and very clear impact in terms of how to develop your strategy and move forward, so that you're not spending time experimenting on things that have already been tested.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it reminds me of one of my favorite quotes around strategy and tactics, and for marketing, it's pertinent. Strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory, and tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. That was Sun Tzu, 2,000 years ago. Very, very true.
He knew what he was talking about.
He did. And yeah, if you don't get that strategy right, and exactly as you said, throwing spaghetti against the wall, chasing the new shiny marketing thing, everything's a priority, nothing is. You're just not going to push one or two key things forward, test, turn off what's not working, keep what is. And I think a lot of businesses get stuck just trying to be all things in the marketing space.
Yeah. And a lot of people think, okay, well, you know what, I can do the strategy myself, or I can do this myself. And maybe if you've got experience with it, but then you're taking time away as a CEO or as a founder, co-founder, CTO, whatever you are in your business, you're taking time away from those other valuable aspects that you should be focusing on. Like maybe you should be focusing on sales or partnerships or the technology that you're building with, or whatever it might be. And instead of trying to figure out your own strategy for marketing and wasting time on it, that's where we come in, and I'll do that on a fractional basis. It could be a few hours a week to almost full time.
And how did you start out?
I started out doing freelance contract work for a number of companies, and it obviously started out slow, started out with some friends' companies, and tried to do all of the marketing things. And then over the years, realized that I was very good at a few of the marketing things. And so it's good and bad. I've got some experience, obviously, across the board, but then I also have a very good understanding of here's what works and here's what doesn't.
Maybe go back, did you do university, college, corporate job, and then jumped out on your own?
Yes. So I obviously did university. I didn't do a corporate job per se. So what I did is I traveled out of university. I tried to do my own thing for a few years, and then I worked for a fast-growing media company. So they had about 26 offices around the world. If anyone has ever seen Wolf of Wall Street, it was an intense sales environment like that. You smile and dial, pick up the phone, sell advertising, let's go. If you didn't sell 50K, 60K in your first 4 to 6 weeks, you got fired. Super intense. And I was one of the worst performing salespeople in the office, but I'd show up early, I'd stay late, and I wanted to really figure out how to do sales. So I got quite good at it and didn't get fired in my first 6 weeks. My manager had asked me to stay on. And then within 8, 10 weeks-ish, 9 weeks, I started performing really well, became one of the fastest promoted people from junior sales rep to managing director, and went out and ran the LA office for a little while. So that's kind of how I got my start. And then from there, I spun off into, okay, I understand sales. Now I really want to understand marketing. And so I started getting into marketing, getting into technology, worked at a startup for a little bit, and then started helping out with friends' companies.
And what year did you start Digital Vision, and how old were you then?
I started it, the official number, that's probably about 6, 7 years ago. And I would have been 35.
And do you have some key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business over those 6 or 7 years?
Yeah, so we've gone from just me in terms of my company to, at our highest point, we've had 13, 14 people working for us. And we've helped a number of companies go from 0 to 40, just under $40 million acquisition. That was our entire marketing strategy. Our team built that marketing engine, and we did most of the tactical work on that. We've also helped another company go from 0 to $13 million acquisition. So that's lightning in a bottle twice so far. We're trying to obviously help more companies accelerate in that way. And so we've done well from those types of company growth.
And did you say you got up to 40 full-time equivalent team members?
14.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's where you roughly are at now?
We're a little less than that. So we're in the range of about 6, 7 people right now.
Yep.
We fluctuate depending on how many clients we're working with and what we're doing.
When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
I have not. It's just that straightforward. I have not felt like I've succeeded yet. I think this is definitely something that I can learn from others on, is how do you remove yourself more from the business? And I know this is something that you'll probably talk about later on, but really spending a lot of time in the business and have your baby, and you knowing that you're the person who can really deliver the best results is a double-edged sword. I know what I'm able to deliver, and I know that we're able to deliver fantastic value, but that requires my time, requires my effort. I'm the one who's doing a lot of the heavy lifting, along with my team, of course, but I'm still very much involved in the business. So in terms of succeeded, I don't feel like I'm fully there yet.
What does success look like to you?
Success looks like a 9-figure exit and cash flow where I'm not involved in the business at every single day. It's more like the Robert Kiyosaki Rich Dad Poor Dad style, where I can show up to the office once a month and people are like, oh, wow, why is Cahill here? That's what success looks like to me.
Perfect question for you. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast-growing business?
Cut down on the marketing channels that you're trying to test out. I think, again, like I suggested and like I said in the very beginning, this is one of the big challenges for most fast-growing companies, is they bite off more than they can chew in terms of marketing effort. And they're trying to be everywhere at once, at the same time, with a limited team, with limited budget. No, cut down and focus. Even if it is the wrong focus, you can at least get there faster and understand, hey, this traction channel, whatever it might be, events. We've done 6 events in the last month. That's not it for us. Let's cut that out. We now know we're not going to do that anymore. Let's go to the next thing. And that's what I would recommend companies do.
Yeah, great advice. Totally agree with that. How did you fund your business?
Everything is self-funded so far. So bootstrapped from 0 all the way up.
No other investors in, just yourself?
Just myself. And so we're actually I started up a startup studio last year. We're working on a couple of projects over the last year. And I've been lucky enough to have a good enough network where I've had a couple of people ask me to invest. But at the current point in time, we're not taking any investors until we can really prove our product market fit. And then if I feel like there's a need for that, then I'll take them.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
No, not at all.
Right.
I think it depends. Everyone's different, right? So for me, fractional CMO work, I love doing it. I really enjoy it. I love working with awesome entrepreneurs and very cool business ideas. I like being on the cutting edge. We work in Web3 and technology. So we're constantly seeing the forefront of AI, the forefront of blockchain development, the forefront of cryptocurrency, NFTs, et cetera. And that is very interesting. That's what I love about what I do. However, you're dealing with clients. There's a lot of hours involved. I've found very difficult to scale. I know some people have scaled agency work very well. For me, I haven't quite figured that out yet. And so for me, I wouldn't go into this business with a lot of funding. I would look for something more scalable that has more of a, you can put in a lot of work in the very beginning, and then you can kind of step back a little bit. Not a lot, because no, I don't think any business is completely passive, but you can step back quite a bit and you can continue to grow the business without having to scale your team to 10s, 20s, 30s, 100 people. That's kind of my
Something like a SaaS product.
correct. That's why we are in SaaS, right? So that's why we did the startup studio, and we're doing 2 SaaS products right now, which will eventually merge into one down the road. But that's exactly why we're doing SaaS.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Sure. One of the most stressful points I found is in figuring out how to take the knowledge out of your head, systematize it, and give it to somebody else. That also ties into one other point, which is being okay with having the results that others deliver at maybe 60% of what you can do.
Yeah.
That's really hard for me. That is something that I found to be very stressful, especially when you start to deal with larger clients and fast growing companies, and there's more at stake, and everything is moving, 3, 4, 5x than normal. The need to have really high quality results delivered at a consistent pace means you have to have fantastic training, fantastic systemization, and you have to really encode that into everything you do. We've been pretty good at it, but I would still say that is one of the most stressful things for me.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
I would say getting comfortable with letting others really take the reins and going to do things by themselves. That has been something I've had to work on that a lot.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
There's a ton of pressure. For example, we've worked with clients who they're getting thousands of signups every week, and the environment of Web3 or cryptocurrency at the time, Bitcoin is hitting all-time highs. It's pushing really fast. There's a ton of competition in the market. Everyone's vying for the same kind of customers, and you've got thousands of signups every week and getting messages at all hours, and you're expected to be on at all times. I can do that, and I'm okay with that at certain points. But I think sometimes it gets a little much, especially when you're the be all and end all in terms of like, does this marketing work or does it not? Does the company grow or does it not? And I know that that's, even me saying that is not a fully true statement. I know that there's other things that influence the success of growth, product, team, customer service, et cetera. But I feel like that.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
I love seeing it succeed, and I love seeing some of the things that you're doing really start to work. So when you start to see those sparks of what will become a fire, which will become the engines of this rocket ship roaring and like everything accelerating, that to me is really cool. It's like you can start to see, okay, this thing that we did, it's just starting to work. Let's push on that. Let's go. I think that's so cool. I'm getting goosebumps right now.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Biggest mindset shift for me has been focusing in on being okay to focus in on certain things with our agency and say, hey, we don't do that. And like I started the conversation with, I do fractional CMO consulting. Our agency focuses on content marketing, PR, and paid media, and we don't do the other things. We work with people who do. I know I've got a network of people who do, but we don't do it. That has been a mindset shift that I've had to switch over the years.
Yeah, it took me a long time, probably 5-6 years into my now 24 years, trying to do everything for everyone. And it's just so important to niche down and focus.
100%. And when money's on the line as a small business, you're like, there's 10, 20, 30, 50 grand there. Like, that could be really good for us. But to turn that down and to say, no, we don't do that. This is what we do. You see opportunities pass by, and that has been a mindset shift to be okay with those opportunities passing by, even when maybe you're not in the best position. And that's hard. That's important to help you forward in the long run.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Discipline. I think discipline is extremely important. Running a small business, regardless of whether it's fast growing, hyper growth, or just growing at a normal speed, or even if it's not growing, all of those scenarios require you to have discipline to sit down at your desk every day, day in and day out, for hours on end, and just hammer through things. Because there are going to be things that you don't know. And so you're going to discover those by just doing the work. There are going to be things that you don't know, and you're going to have to figure out how to do those things. There are going to be things that you're okay at that you want to become good at. And then there's the things that you're really good at that you want to keep on pushing on. All of that requires discipline to say, I need to just sit down and do my work and like consistently hammer on it for hours, days, weeks, months, years, and then things will start to shift, I think.
Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Sure. So we've always been a remote company. We started remote. We've been remote throughout, our entire time. I don't know if I have the perfect system of hiring down. I don't think anyone does. I know that I have found some very good wins in terms of having a good system and a good way of being direct and upfront in the interview process. So that for me has done very well. I've also found very good success in hiring very quickly. I've gone through times where, for example, I've used Upwork, we've used Fiverr, we've used Online Jobs PH, and there have been situations where, for example, one of the people on our team, he's part-time, and I've worked with him for, I want to say 3.5, almost 4 years now. He had a very green profile on Upwork, almost no ratings. How he wrote his description seemed very intriguing, and he had said that he was quite good at a very obscure type of game. And so I just hired him without even interviewing him and said, let's get on a call. I'll pay you for your time. I want to understand X, Y, and Z. If it works, great. I'm sure we'll work together for a while. If not, this will be, you get paid for an hour and that's it. And I've been working with him for 3.5, 4 years. So I know that contradicts a little bit what I said in the beginning, but that has been very good for me. And then also having a very direct, upfront interview process where I say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's who I am. Here's what the team is like. If you're into it, awesome. Let's experiment. Let's work together. And if you're not, no problem. That's fine too.
Yeah, you said onlinejobs.ph. I had the founder of onlinejobs.ph on the podcast, John Jonas, episode 344. Great service that's being offered if you want to find full-time team members, basically as a job board for the Philippines.
Absolutely. I do recommend with the job boards, any kind of remote work, if you're not used to hiring, definitely put in a process, definitely have some questions in advance. And then in your interview, my recommendation, this is, as you can tell from listening to this podcast or watching it, I'm upfront and I'm direct. So I tell people who I am, how I am, the directness that I like to have. Not everyone likes it. Not everyone wants to work with me. That's totally fine. I'm looking for the people who do want to work with me and who do like my style. And that's how we work together for many, many years.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
This one is very interesting. We have a cultural document that I share with everyone, and I get people to ask and address before we hire them. And then throughout the first couple of months, very specifically, we call people out on the values deck all the time. And this is something that I think really reinforces, hey, we take these values seriously. Hey, we want you to be thinking about them. I've had people call me out on our own values deck, which is great. And I said, hey, you know what? You're absolutely right. I didn't do this value. Boom, here you go. And so I think that that's important, especially when you're remote.
Yeah.
In addition, I think having regular all hands kind of team meetings where it doesn't matter if someone's working 1 hour a week with your team or if they're working 50 hours a week, having everyone see everyone else. And, oh, I've heard about Troy, Andrew on our team. I've never talked to him, but I've heard about him. And now all of a sudden you can see his face or her face and you can talk with everyone. I think that helps build camaraderie and helps build a good culture.
Hello, audience, how you've handled balance?
I don't believe that there is full balance. I think that if you are, and maybe this goes back to part of the thing that I feel like I'm trying to learn and overcome is how do I remove myself from the company a little bit more? But I don't actually think there's balance in the traditional, oh, I've got 40 hours of work a week and I have perfect playtime. I think you integrate it. And I think by me even being a digital nomad, that's proof of it. I've spent my time in New York City, Mexico, Austin, Texas, Toronto, Vancouver, Europe, in Latin America. On the weekends, I'll hike volcanoes. I'll go scuba diving. I'll go to an art gallery. I'll go to a museum. I'll go to a Michelin star restaurant. But I also will work 12 hours a day. I'll jump on a call at 9 p.m. at night, at 6 in the morning. Like, I don't think there is quite quote unquote balance when you're doing a small business or a growing business. And I'm okay with that. I really enjoy what I'm doing and I have a goal of what I want to accomplish. And so for me, if I can integrate some aspects of working out, being healthy, having a good relationship into my life, and I've got a partner, she's fantastic. She understands that as well. And that's how I think you find integration versus balance.
And how much professional development have you invested in yourself?
I have spent tens of thousands of dollars going to courses, seminars, paying for online trainings, etc. I consume a lot of content, a lot of content. I read a lot of books. Those books would be professional, but also nonfiction. For example, I was very interested in trading and understanding investing. So I bought 12, 13 books on it and read them all over the course of, call it a few months, 6 months. And I'll really go deep into a subject. Then I'll listen to podcasts on it. Then I'll watch YouTube videos on it. Then I'll watch talks on it. And I'll just really consume a lot of content. So I invest a lot of time into that. I don't watch TV. I do watch Netflix occasionally, but I don't watch TV. I don't have any favorite shows. I listen to podcasts. I watch YouTube videos a lot, and I consume a lot of content.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
In the early days, I had some coaches. I've moved away from that and I talked to some friends who have been very successful. Their companies are worth tens of millions or more. And so those are the people that I talk to and get feedback from now.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I do not. I'm thinking about building one for our software startup, but I only want to approach that once we hit a level where I feel like I've found product market fit. I may be thinking about investment if I want to go that route to really scale the company. And then I'll think about having a board of advisors.
Okay, here we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Belief that your work and your efforts now, while you're grinding it out and having the discipline to stay in it day in and day out, that it's going to pay off down the road. I think that is one of the hardest things. And then, like I said as well, I know this is 2, but having the ability to stay focused and just keep on going. Those are pretty hard.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Favorite business book, I've taken photos of it. I've written notes about it. I even used to travel with it. It's called Scaling Up by Vern Harsh. It's a fantastic book. It is literally a textbook.
Did you read his first one, Rockefeller Habits?
I didn't, but because you know it as well. I love scaling up. Like I constantly go back to it. I use it when I'm doing fractional CMO work. I'll integrate some of what he talks about in my own style. I really like scaling up in terms of a tactical business book that's like a textbook that really tells you like, here's what you need to do. So that's one. And if I could give another one, I would also recommend a book called, I believe it's called Pay Yourself First.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Profits First.
Profit First. Thank you. Yes. Profit First. I think that's a fantastic book. So my partner, she told me about that book and I was like, yeah. I already know that stuff. And I didn't read it. I read the summary and I was like, oh, whatever. She's like, no, read it. I bought you the book so you could read it. I finally read it and it literally changed my business. Changed my business in terms of giving me a little bit more breathing room, allowing me to start the startup studio and invest in my own software companies, allowing me to have buffers for hiring, allowing me to pay myself a little bit. And all of these things just changed when I read Profit First. And I follow it, unless it's at a very difficult time, I follow it like to a T. Like I'm very into that book. So that book is fantastic.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
So I've just been going through a class that I thought was really insightful called NFX. So that NFX, I believe it's nfx.com, network effects, basically. It's run by a number of gentlemen who have invested or been a part of multiple network type businesses. So think monster.com, LinkedIn, that type of thing. And I've been really going through that course in terms of understanding how to integrate network effects into software. So I like to, as you can tell, have one might call just-in-time information. So I'm working on a software startup. I want to understand software things now. I don't want to necessarily understand how to evaluate a company in angel investing because I'm not doing that yet. And so while I'm interested in that, I'm not interested in it now because now it's time for me to build my software startup and understand how to really grow it. That's how I structure my learning.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Without recommending my own tools, I would recommend communities. So communities can be found on Facebook, Slack, Discord, primarily is where I spend my time, but you've also got Reddit, etc. But I would recommend communities. And so, for example, our company has made tens of thousands of dollars from being part of communities and just contributing to communities. And it's a very easy lift. It's something that you can do. It's fun. And so I would definitely recommend, Facebook communities as an example, or getting onto a Discord community. It's very simple and easy to get involved.
Finally, my favorite question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Think bigger. Or tell myself, think bigger. One of the challenges that I find a lot of Canadians have, and I'm Canadian, is we don't think as big as Americans or as people from New York or the Valley, Silicon Valley. Think big, think big. Obviously you want to do the small things and grind it out and, step by step, but think big, push. So that's what I told myself.
Great. Thanks very much for your time today, Cahill. Really enjoyed our chat. Congratulations on the growth over the last 6 or 7 years, starting out on your own and getting up to around 14 full-time team members and helping a lot of great businesses out there scale their marketing very, very quickly. So well done.
Thank you for having me on, Troy. I appreciate it.
We're getting some great iTunes reviews. For those listening, please pop over to your podcast app and leave us a review.